Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here and Football season is here. Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for National Streaming Sports Mac and Jack Show. I'm sitting in the host seat today for Sonia Pearson, who has been sitting in and doing an admirable job, I think, for our late leader, Mac McGrath, who's in our thoughts every day. Hello to Willinda, if you're out there. Hope you're doing well. And I want to say welcome. I'm also broadcasting or simulcasting on my Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. So welcome to everybody on Roku and all the other places we are. And I'll welcome in the co-host of this show for a long, long time, Jack Hirsch. How are you, Jack?
Hey, Keith. All's going well.
All's going well. Hope it's nice in your area because we've actually had rain every day here, every weekend here since Thanksgiving, or snow. So I hope it's better in you're in Connecticut. Where are you anyway?
I'm in New York, Keith. You're sounding like my co-host on Love Fist, Frank Laterzo. He likes the whole warm up before getting to sports on the weather. For Mac, this was just brilliant for Mac. He would tie it in with a game right now.
I'm a local.
It'll be sports related.
I'm a local news junkie. You know, I'm in that is happy talk little thing at the beginning. Anyway, we'll jump into it.
By the way, I was passing by your neck of the woods, driving to the Boxing Hall of Fame this past weekend. And and I pass by Hudson Valley and I think about the minor league teams, in the small towns, how much those teams mean in the small towns. Just like I think this is a good segue, because I believe you were going to start off with hockey because we had a great game yesterday, how much it means to a certain city to win a Stanley Cup as opposed to another city. I mean, championships, Keith, mean a lot to every single city. Don't get me wrong. But somehow, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but somehow I think it means a little more to some cities than it does others.
I agree. And countries, when we talk about the NHL, Edmonton, just to start it off with a big win to even a series, overtime, 5-4 win. I think that's their second 5-4 win in overtime. I think the first one was in double overtime. But how important, again, this is an important game, obviously, but in the overall scheme of things, how important is it to the country of Canada after 32 years, they have not won a Stanley Cup? And in that time frame, 4 teams from Florida, 1 from Texas, 1 from Vegas, and 1 from Carolina have won Stanley Cups, where you think Canada would have won at least 1 in all that period of time. This is an important drought?
It seems criminal to an extent, and I'm being sarcastic by using that word, that the state of Florida, between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers, could have this level of dominance in hockey, and Canada just keeps falling short. I mean, Montreal used to have the great dynasties, back in the day with on Bellevue, et cetera, et cetera. and the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've been knocking on the door year after year, but something happens to them when they get to the playoffs. I mean, they always find a way to stumble. And now it's Edmonton. And when we think of Edmonton, of course, we think of Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier when they had their kind of mini dynasty going on, where they won a few cups during that time. But they've had this big drought. And you get the feeling it would mean more to Edmonton than it would to Florida. And I wouldn't say this in front of a Florida Panther fan because let's face it, you never get tired of winning. You never get tired of it, but there's a feeling of expectation. And I even remember Gil Hodges' wife. She was saying in 1955 when the Dodgers finally won a World Series, they beat the Yankees. It was the Brooklyn Dodgers' only World Series. The Dodgers are leading 2-0 in the ninth inning, 2 outs. Elston Howard's at the plate, and she's practically praying. She says, "Let us just win one. The Yankees have won so many times." And don't get me wrong, it meant a lot to the Yankees to still win. It hurt to lose. But somehow, for some cities, some franchises, it means everything.
Well, Montreal still leads, I think, in total victories, if I'm not mistaken, and it is important, I think, and it's shocking every time we get to this time of year, and I think it's 30 plus years. It's just shocking to me, and again, you're right. I think it's important for Florida to win back to back. Not everybody in sports, it's very hard to go back to back these days in any sport. Hockey's had their share of dynasties, actually, not quite in recent times, but going back, you mentioned Edmonton, Montreal had a few different runs. So I think hockey might have had. Well, baseball, we know we go back in history, but
in another little segue, I was going to mention the New York Rangers in 1994. They had a drought of something like 44 years, and that was the big news. Hasn't won a cup in all those decades, and and the memory stays. And now we're 2025, and it's been 31 years. They're going to threaten that streak. It's madness. Imagine they didn't win in 94. What are we talking about? Like 75 years of
it would be.
Speaking of that, the Rangers traded Chris Kreider, who was with them for 10 years, one of their most popular players. And it kind of makes me wonder, Keith, loyalty to a team, loyalty to a franchise. A player's with a team so long, and inevitably they wind up somewhere else usually. And you kind of wonder, how loyal should they be to that team all along? If that's how it's eventually going to wind up. It's like a team moves on from a player. And I'm a big believer, Keith, if a player's in demand from other teams, why are you trading to begin with? Just keep him for yourself. If they want him bad enough, unless he really wants to go and you want to trade him out of loyalty for what he's done for you, okay, keep him yourself.
I don't get the impression that Chris Kreider wanted to go. I think he hemmed and hawed about whether he was going to approve this trade or not. I don't think he really wanted to go. But in the long run, if somebody's telling you we don't want you, why are you going to stay? Right?
Yeah, but that's the point. Why be loyal all along when you're at your best and you're a young player on the way up and you're giving everything to the team? If they're going to move on from you at the end and you got to basically finish your career somewhere else where you didn't really want to finish your career somewhere else, but you see the handwritings on the wall. They're no longer making a fuss over you.
It's a great point, and probably warrants further discussion at some point. But to me, one of the saddest things and it's a byproduct of all the things that have changed in sports. But to me, the saddest byproduct of all of that is that we see very few guys who go their entire career in one place, like Derek Jeter. Aaron Judge most likely will, but you're not going to see a lot of those guys anymore. We don't know with
Aaron Judge how things eventually go. Well, look at the way things wound up with Jeter. The team embarrassed him by making his contract details public. I don't care what Brian Cashman says, and Keith, better than anyone, I'm a big backer of Brian Cashman, a big Brian
More than this guy.
Cashman. But shame on Brian Cashman. Shame on him the way he handled the Jeter thing. I heard his explanation saying, well, Jeter's agent put something up. No, it was pretty low the way the Yankees acted towards Jeter. And I'm not the biggest Jeter fan. I think Jeter's got some issues personality-wise. I don't think he was half the captain that Aaron Judge is, the way he kind of acted, okay? You know, with the A-Rod thing and so on, even though him and A-Rod are really good now, and I know A-Rod was a pain in the butt, I realized that, but as the captain, you got to put your own personal feelings aside.
Yeah.
And Brian Cashman was riding this when he told Jeter, you got to be a captain for all the players, not just the players you want to be a captain for, you know, and something. But shame on the Yankees the way they handled the Jeter situation. And they did the same thing with Judge, laying out their contract demands. And Mac and Paul Semendinger said to Judge, oh, you should sign that contract for the two. No, he shouldn't have signed the contract. And he didn't. And he got $146.5 million more by not signing that contract. And you want to know something? The Yankees still got off easy.
You know, the Yankees had a history of that, though, with some of their star players where they say, and they did it to Jeter, where Cashman said, well, go ahead, go out and find a better deal. And that's just, it is disrespectful, first of all, you're right. But they've also gotten burned that way with Andy Pettitte and some other guys as well. They almost lost Bernie Williams that way to the Red Sox, for crying out loud.
Well, you could tell someone to look for a better deal. That's okay, but do it quietly.
Right.
Do it quietly. Don't try to turn the fans against the play. They tried to turn the fans against Jeter, then they tried to turn the fans against Aaron Judge. And Judge even mentioned it. He saw that was the tactics they were kind of, you know, using. And, but you can't, look, there's a difference in philosophy. Danny Ainge and Red Auerbach had a different philosophy, and who's to say who's right? Red Auerbach believed legendary players you had on your team, like a Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, should be allowed to finish their careers as Boston Celtics, especially a Larry Bird, a legendary Celtic. Danny Ainge believed trade him off at the end of his career when he has value and get something back. You know, I understand both. I understand both philosophies in that sense.
The biggest dynasty that we've seen in sports in the last, 25 years is the Patriots, and they had the same philosophy, and it ended up even being Tom Brady at the end. So,
but that was great. That was actually Brady's choice a little more.
They pushed him out the door.
He got tired of Belichick. Brady could have stayed, but Belichick was indifferent. Belichick, correct, you know better than I do because you're closer with the New England Patriots scene than I am. But I was under the impression Belichick's attitude was, if you want to quarterback the team, quarterback the team. If you don't, then don't. That was my impression.
Well, again, not to belabor this point, but the real fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for Bob Kraft, Tom Brady would have been gone 2 years before that because Belichick was ready to move on. He was done. And Kraft said no. And even when he went, Kraft said, I'd like you to stay. And Brady said, I can't do it anymore. So,
speaking of Brady, then unveiling a statue outside Gillette Stadium of Tom Brady. No surprise at all. Has Brady been a little indifferent towards the Patriots, towards Robert Kraft? I know he's fond of Robert Kraft, but because he's a part owner of the Raiders, which I have mixed feelings on because you're on the Fox broadcast.
You do both.
Well, I just don't get a good feel of sport. But then again, if Magic Johnson is a minority owner of, let's say, an NBA team, should he be allowed to be a broadcaster as well during the games? Or let me give you another example, a more recent one. Reggie Miller, a career Indiana Pacer, okay? He's in the broadcast booth doing the Pacer Knick games. And by the way, I thought Reggie Miller did a very fair job.
I did too.
I think he did a very good job. And I don't want to hear any Knick fans complain. He was going out of his way not to show favoritism towards the Pacers. He
Yeah.
was really being good that way. But he wanted the Pacers to win. That's obvious. I mean, and he should want the Pacers to win because if Reggie Miller didn't want the Pacers to win, I'd even say to him, "What's up, Reggie? You played your whole career with the Pacers. How can you
A
be
100%.
impartial? You shouldn't be impartial."
100%. And Brady, I don't think should be an owner and a broadcaster either. I don't think he'll see it much longer. I think this might be his last year because he's not that good broadcasting anyway.
I thought he did a good job. So you don't think so?
I did not think he did a great job. No. I mean, again, there's not a lot of guys I like right now in that position, but he's not. He's not good. I thought the guy they replaced was much better, and Olsen, I think, was much better.
I thought Olsen was okay. Olsen was good, but I didn't see the big deal made about Greg Olsen. I really didn't. He was good. Greg Olsen is good. I'm not saying he's not. I enjoy listening to him, but he doesn't bowl me over. Oh, he's not like the second coming of Vince Scully as a broadcaster.
It's
even
funny.
though he's an analyst.
I'm going to we've gone so far afield here, and I'm going to keep going now because now I'm going to ask you, Duke, I don't think that people tune in because of who's broadcasting the game. Do you? You think it matters if Tom Brady's doing a game or Greg Olsen or Troy Aikman? I don't think people tune in for that.
It's a difference maker to an extent, Keith. I mean, listen, people complain about Chris Collinsworth.
I like him.
About him. He's entertaining to an extent. He's enthusiastic to an extent. I don't like a broadcaster who's all business. All business the whole time. Like John Gruden, he was all business. He wasn't my cup of tea. Like obviously he knew his stuff. And I don't know a fraction of the amount of football that John Gruden knows, but it's something about the personality. It's entertainment to a large degree. And
is anybody not watching a game?
Wait. Keith, Gifford, Meredith, and Cosell. You mean people didn't tune in and have fun listening to Meredith and Cosell go back and forth?
A little bit of a different situation because that was more entertainment based, and they had good football games too, by the way, most of the time. And it was a novelty at the time, right? You didn't have games that were on Sunday, so it was an event. It was an event. But yes, I would agree in that instance, it made a difference because their ratings would go up and down when that trio started to change, right? And other guys started coming and going. So I agree, but I don't think, if you got 2-10-1, the Cowboys and Eagles are facing off at 10-1. I don't think anybody cares. They're not going to not watch the game because somebody they don't like is doing the game. Like everybody hates Joe Buck. Joe Buck's doing that game. They're not turning it off because Joe Buck's doing the game, right?
No. I think part of the problem with these games attracting fans on the East Coast, they're ending too late games. And if if someone's going to work the next day, they know they can't be up that late, and they know they would stay up a little later for the end of the game, a little later. But if they know the game is ending way too late, you're going to lose them as a viewer a little earlier than you normally would if you started the game, an hour beforehand. And I get the point about accommodating these fans on the West Coast, the 3-hour time difference. But a game that begins, let's say, 8:35 Eastern time is beginning 5:35 p.m. Western time. And the person who works till 5 o'clock, chances are they could catch the beginning of the game anyway. And if they miss the beginning of the game on the West Coast, they'll tune in at some point during the first half and see the rest of the game. I just don't like, with sports, these games when they really end late. Like if it's and I think in Indiana, OKC, they need all the help they could get in this series. They're trying to get as many storylines as they can.
Well, it's a good segue, right? Good segue here.
I think the biggest storyline they're trying to focus on Tyrese Halliburton is, a charismatic guy hitting the game-winning shots. They had to lead in with his father. And somehow SGA, Sean Giglius Alexander, the MVP of the league, who is really the best player, he's kind of become a forgotten man. He's not a story in this thing, and this was supposed to be his coming out party.
Well, it's been very low viewership, as you know, and I think part of this is, I don't know if the NBA again, they don't market like the NFL does. We know that, but they don't market enough individual guys, right? Everybody knows LeBron. Everybody knows the big names, the one name guys, right? But there are some stars out there that this series isn't going to attract casual fans at all, unless they get some interest. If it goes 6 or 7 games, I think viewership will boost up, as we talked about a lot on the national streaming sports show on Wednesday night. I think viewership was like 7 million or something for the average for the first couple games. I don't know what last night or the 2 nights ago was, but again, this is Indiana and OKC. It's not New York against LA or Boston and LA.
No, I'm listening to Magic Johnson yesterday talk, and he was on First Take, Stephen A. Smith, and he said a shout out to Adam Silver for creating all this parity in the NBA. That was his dream. But I think this is a classic case of be careful what you wish for, because his parity has given us OKC in Indiana in the finals. And if he had the old guard, if he had Golden State playing Indiana, ratings would be high. If he had the Lakers playing Indiana, the ratings would be high. If OKC was playing the Boston Celtics, the ratings would be better for sure.
Because of casual viewership. Again, the hardcore fans are watching, right? Casual fans are not. That's my point. And JB, good morning, JB from the Bottom Line Sports. Big fan of my show. Glad to see you this morning. He makes a big point about Halliburton has had I don't know if that number's right. Well, we can fact check it. I'm not going to do it now, but it's pretty close to that. And it is unprecedented, some of the things he's doing, but he's also had some really bad games. But do casual fans know who Halliburton is? I don't think they do.
Well, they're learning. It's as if the NBA is creating a personality as we're going along in this series. And, when Halliburton's very aggressive, takes a good number of shots, I mean, the Pacers win. When he tries to be more of a facilitator, they're not nearly as successful.
Oh.
And we'll see. But this game 4 tonight is extremely intriguing because if the Pacers win tonight, I mean, I don't think OKC's winning 3 in a row. And I'm going to tell you something. If OKC doesn't win the NBA championship this year, if they don't win this series, forget all this talk in OKC maybe. Is this the start of a dynasty? I'll go a step further. They don't win it this year, OKC. More likely than not, they're not even going to win one championship with this group, let alone a dynasty. Because I understand they have depth, they have this, they have that. But, in Chet Holmgren, I mentioned on the past show, is a star. I maybe got a little carried away. I won't quite call him a star. He's a heck of a good all-around player.
Yeah.
A wonderful rim protector, etc. But they don't have the impact players, the dominating players. Like the Celtics had Tatum and Brown and Porzingis, a big 3. Is SGA, and Holmgren and Williams as forceful a big 3 as what the Celtics had last year. I question that.
Let me make an apology. I brought up for whatever reason I thought it was JB, and I mixed up my 2 guys. It's Flo from Bottom Line Sports. They have their own podcast. They do some great stuff, and Flo actually is active military and deployed right now in parts he's unable to disclose. So we hope you're safe out there in this crazy world right now, Flo. So thank you. And my heartfelt apologies. You and JB have very similar logos, and I didn't read enough of the whole thing. So my bad, Flo. I apologize. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Good to have you with us. And Marcus Banks, good to have you with us as well. So tonight's game, what do we got? Game 4, 2-1 Pacers. Obviously, big game for Oklahoma. Oklahoma City can't go down 3-1, but I still think, Jack, that this is almost it's like a must-win for the Pacers because they've got the momentum. They can't lose it. They have a habit of throwing a clunker up here. Halberton has a habit of as good as he's been, he'll throw a clunker of the game in there. And let's not forget the Pacers got 49 points from their bench the other night. That's unprecedented right now in today's game.
Yeah, but Keith, as you've mentioned in past shows, you've behaved yourself on this show, but in past shows, OKC needs to win the game to regain home court advantage.
That was very funny when you missed me.
I'm never going to let you live that one down. No, everyone talks that way, so I like to have fun with this. But,
no, I get it, and I do think there's something to that. But at this point, right now, it's all just winning games. You got to win games.
Games, of course. I mean, listen, best of 7. Give me the first 2 games automatically, and I'll give you the last 5 on your home court and take my chances for the last 5. Come on. But the thing about it, Indiana could lose game 4, and then they could lose game 5 at OKC, and then they can come back and win game 6 at Indiana very easily. And that'll set up a game 7. I don't look at it as being as big a game for Indiana as OKC, simply because they're up 2-1. They have a cushion. OKC falls down 3-1. It's a mountain to climb, a very bad mountain, and the Knicks testament to that. Same scenario. They lost game 4 to the Pacers, and they fell down 3-1. And even though they won game 5, Knicks look really good winning game 5. Look what happened game 6. The Indiana knows if they win tonight, they're playing with house money game 5, basically. And even if they lost game 6 at home, and to set up a 7th game, Indiana showed their resilience. They can win a game 7 on the road. And when a team is down and they keep struggling to stay alive game after game, they usually run out of steam at some point.
Yeah, true. That's very true. And listen, at the beginning of this, I hedged a lot. I said it was going to be Oklahoma City in 4 or the Pacers in 7. So the Pacers in 7 looks like a much better pick right now.
SGA, I don't go for this comment on SGA. I can't say with absolute confidence, no, OKC is going to win tonight, even though I'm picking them to it. I'm not saying with any absolute confidence, but I'll say this with absolute confidence: SGA is going to play a really good game.
Well, that doesn't mean he doesn't throw a clunker
up.
He's had clunkers, and he had a clunker in the series. He had clunkers against Denver. I think the comment is accurate. Just like Halliburton. Halliburton's doing the same thing.
Not tonight. He'll score close to 40 points.
I would expect him. I would expect him to come back very strong tonight, just like when Halliburton has a bad game. And he played well the other night. He didn't play great, but he had 11 assists, which really helped the team. I think the injury, Indiana can play down Halliburton's injury all they want, but it's affecting his game a bit. And other players, guys you don't expect, have picked up the Pacers here, especially in Game 3. But they seem to have a guy like that step up almost every night, it seems, when they're playing well. So
even Obi Toppin makes a big play now and then, and it's weird about Obi Toppin. When he was a Knick, I was thinking, Obi Toppin should be playing full time, transition him into a full time role. But now I see his greatest value, it's basically coming off the bench in spurts. He's really outstanding in spurts.
He looked like the Obi. I said this on Wednesday night. Tuesday, he looked like the Obi Toppin the Knicks knew. He was 1 for 8. He was terrible in that game, but he had some big moments in that Knicks series. He played pretty well off the bench, I thought, and gave them a couple of boosts when they needed the Pacers off the bench. So I think he's been a pretty productive player since he left the Knicks. I know you don't believe in this statement either. Maybe he just couldn't play in New York. So.
No, he wasn't bad with the Knicks. I mean, he didn't get to play many minutes. What was he playing, like 10 minutes a game or whatever? And it was.
Well, there's a reason.
How
he wasn't any good.
Using him, I mean,
he wasn't any good. He couldn't play. He did not play well when he played with the Knicks. I don't think you can.
So it does not develop a bench. That was. Speaking of that, Heath. I mean, the big talk is with the Knicks head coaching
You
search.
did a good job with the
And
segues today, Jack. Good job.
yeah, and it's the way it turned out. I mean, if I'm kind of speechless on this because whoever they get, it seems at this point, unless they're getting a fresh big name, okay, like a Dan Hurley or Jay Wright, who they're not going to get Jay Wright already. We know that he doesn't want it. And Dan Hurley, it seems like the Knicks haven't even reached out to him. Had the Knicks made it a priority, immediately we want Dan Hurley in the best way, in the biggest way, he may have taken that job because he's always wanted to coach in the NBA, and this is his hometown, the Knicks. I mean, how do you turn that down? But all this talk, the people they're reaching out to, Jason Kidd, in all due respect to Jason Kidd, what's he really done as a head coach all the years? He's been okay, but he hasn't been this great head coach, with Dallas.
The Knicks said they fired Thibodeau because they didn't think he was a guy to take them to the next step, which, by the way, is BS because they've gotten to another step every single year, basically, since he's been there, which there's no reason to think he can't continue that rise. But all the guys you looked at, to your point, why would I think they can too? Kid got to one finals. He was under 500 in Milwaukee. They didn't really want him in Brooklyn. And the other guys on the list, Duke is a good coach, but he brings some baggage with him. Finch, good coach. Quinn Snyder, I like Quinn Snyder, not to coach this Knick team. But Billy Donovan, who in that group is better than Thibodeau? I think, Matt, I'll let you go in 1 second. I truly believe Thibodeau could have won the championship. They were dead set. They were firing him. They didn't care.
They could. No. There's absolutely no way. No. If they won the championship, it would send the city through the moon.
Yeah.
And then to announce they're firing Thibodeau, I don't care if Thibodeau was, the most unreasonable, demanding of head coaches. To fire him at that point. And I'm hearing some talk about a couple of other names, and I'll tell you, there's some old names they could come back to. They could come back to Jeff Van Gundy. I kind of feel he would take it. And
I don't know if he would.
There's even some talk about Mark Jackson, and I wish Stephen A. Smith would get his head out of the clouds because he's clueless when it comes to Mark Jackson. Absolutely clueless. And listen, I like Stephen A. Smith. I respect Stephen A. Smith. I'm not one of these Stephen A. Smith bashers. But where's his head at? There's a reason Mark Jackson hasn't had a job in the NBA, and he's saying Mark Jackson is blackballed. First off, the definition
that's
being blackballed, meaning owners are calling one another. And there's an understanding amongst the owners not to hire someone. There's no understanding about that when it comes to Mark Jackson. Owners don't care if another owner hires Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson reportedly was a terrible person within the Golden State Warrior building organization, the way he talked to other people. And reportedly, no one in the building liked him. They couldn't stand how he acted as a human being in large part. And why hasn't Mark Jackson been given so much of an interview, to be a head coach elsewhere? There's a reason for it. Word gets around. But Mark Jackson had a great position as a broadcaster for a lot of years. Okay? But the point is, Mark Jackson didn't bowl you over as a broadcaster. He was kind of drab. I'll be honest about it. Now, if Mark Jackson the NBA, and you want to transition him and get him an opportunity, him and Jeff Van Gundy are very close. If Jeff Van Gundy, I think if he was offered the Knicks head coaching job, he'd take it because he's with the Clippers as an assistant.
I get it, but you got to remember, don't you think, because Tibbs is his boy too, and I think he thinks he's gonna disrespect Tibbs if he takes his job after they hatchet job Thibodeau. And
Well,
he did hatch a job. I made an extreme example when I said if he won a championship. But in my mind, there is no doubt in my mind this is a firing just for the sake of firing somebody because they didn't have a plan. There's not one guy that they've talked about that is going to give them a better chance to win than Tibbs would, in my mind, unless Phil Jackson's going to come out and coach on crutches, which isn't going to happen.
But let me just finish this thought, and then let me comment on what you said. If Van Gundy took the head coaching job and he'd make Mark Jackson his chief assistant, because him and Mark Jackson are very close, and then Van Gundy could step down after a year, and then Jackson's image would have changed, and then he could have transitioned over if you like Mark Jackson. But as far as Thibodeau, let's not feel sorry for him, Keith. I'm going to tell you why. He's got 3 years left on his contract. Wouldn't you love that, Keith, if they called you into the office? You did great work for your company. They fired you, but you're getting paid the next 3 years.
It doesn't work that way in the real world.
Right before you were going to retire anyway. You were going to retire in 3 years anyway, but they're not letting you work the last 3 years before you retire, and they're going to pay you full salary. Come on. I'd
be all right with that. But again, Tibbs wants to coach and win a championship. So I do feel bad for Tibbs because he got screwed. There's no two ways about it. And by the way, to go back to Jeff Van Gundy, to be clear, I'd love Jeff Van Gundy to coach this team. I really would. I think he'd be really good. Doesn't have a lot of years left, as you said. Mark Jackson, I don't know. But I don't know about that succession plan. But I like Van Gundy a lot. I don't think he's going to take this job, though. He may not be.
There are other names out there like Mike Brown. Mike Brown, good coach, good coach. No, he is a good coach. He did a good job at Sacramento, all in all, when he was there. But he's not that type of coach you hire. Is an impact hire if you're going to fire Thibodeau. I think the reason they fired Thibodeau because something about him just turned the owner off. And I get the feeling James Dolan was somewhat behind this. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe this was a Leon Rose thing. But I don't think it was the GM Leon Rose. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you sign a guy to a 3-year extension, you don't fire him the next year because that makes you look bad. Whoever suggested the 3-year extension. And Thibodeau wasn't going to get fired unless James Dolan was going to sign off on it.
But you're
if James Dolan did not want Thibodeau fired, Leon Rose would have been powerless to do it.
Well, you're also making my overall point for me, though, is that I said they're lying to us and the media when they say we fired him because we think we need somebody else to give us the best chance to win a championship. That's not why he got fired.
Well, I got a name for you, Keith. You're talking about lying. He's lied as far as, saying Iona was going to be his last stop. He basically, I'm paraphrasing, said you could take it to the bank. There's no way I'm going elsewhere. And then he leaves Iona and he goes to St. John's. So you can't really believe him on face value. But he's a terrific coach, Rick Pitino, and he has unfinished business in the NBA.
Great point.
Because he was not a successful NBA coach. He was very unsuccessful with the Celtics. So if he could win a championship with the Knicks, Pitino becomes a legendary coach. If he's not there already.
He had very good success with the Knicks before he left there as their head coach, before he became a college star. He won 50 games there in one season. Nobody was doing it for the Knicks. So,
and I'll say this: Mark Jackson said Pitino was the best coach he ever played for, and that's a ringing endorsement. That was a ringing endorsement.
I don't think that'll happen, but it would be very interesting. You're right. You can't take anything he says that, this is his dream job and I should have never left. I can hear the press conference now, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Another go round. Yeah, with the Knicks. Providence was his dream job. He took him to the Final Four, saying he never should have left. You want to know something? That's a great question, too. It's hard not to leave for a job that's really appealing. But look at all the great coaches. How many of them stayed in one place? Like Coach K. It was smart of Coach K, I guess, not to go to the Lakers when Kobe wanted him there.
Brilliant.
How would that have eventually turned out? How many coaches make the smart decision to stay? How many coaches should have left when they had the chance? It reminds me of the Rocky movie where Paulie said, "I knew I should have went to Florida when I had the chance."
Well, you talked about Jay Wright. Jay Wright has said he's not coming back, and Jay Wright had many chances to leave Villanova and never did. Not over the same period of time as Coach K, but
he was at Hofstra first, but he left there.
Yeah, it was. Well, he went. You're gonna leave Hofstra for a better job. I mean, but Villanova, he could have coached. He could have coached the Knicks before. I mean, I know he's been offered his job before.
Well, he was offered the 76er job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Paul, Danny. Good morning, Danny, out in California. Good to see you early this morning. Knickerbockers, his new favorite team. He hopes loses because he thinks they screwed Tibbs. I know what that's about. So
let me ask you this: is there discontent with the fans and the media because they fired Tibbs, or because they haven't presented a better option, or it's apparent they just don't know what they're doing, the Knick hierarchy?
I think it's both. The second part is true, but it's been exacerbated by the fact that they didn't want him fired in the first place. Now the players are coming out. Josh Hart was really harsh with the organization yesterday about Tibbs's firing. And I think if they had a plan, Jack, and said, we have a better, because they said, Tibbs has taken us as far as we can. We've hit the ceiling. If that's true, then you have to have somebody lined up in your mind that's better and going to take you over the top. And there's
another storyline, that's in this Tibbs thing. If Indiana wins the next couple of games, win the NBA championship, people will say, wait, they beat OKC in 5. They beat Cleveland in 5. We gave them even a better series, and we're firing Tibbs. But if the Pacers win the title outright, all of a sudden, I don't want to say it cushions the loss to the Pacers in the playoffs, but it makes you more tolerant of them losing. You can't say anymore, well, we lost to a team we should have beaten. Rather, we could say we lost to a team we could have beaten rather than we should have beaten them.
Well, based on recent history, I mean, the Knicks are going to offer Rick Carlisle or ask for permission to talk to Rick Carlisle as soon as this series is over, based on their history. And by the way, there's a guy I would hire in a second to coach this team.
Now, Magic Johnson was asked, would he become an owner of the Knicks given the opportunity? And he was saying, yeah, he would. He loves LA, but this is the one place. Wouldn't that be interesting if the Knicks offered Magic Johnson the head coaching job? Because Magic Johnson, he did coach.
He had hated it.
The Lakers. He can coach.
He hated
Magic
it.
Johnson, a smart enough basketball man. He could come in and be a head coach right now.
I don't disagree with that, but I know those short, and it was a very short stint with the Lakers. He hated it. So that's why he didn't stay. So I don't know. I'm not really sure. It's a mess. It's a mess. That's all you can say is they had no plan. And it's very obvious they had no plan.
They'll probably get one of these, to close it on this, one of these recycled head coaches, one of these guys who've been around a while, like a Mike Brown. It's not going to be an exciting hire, we'll take it from there. But something about
they won't win.
I don't think
they'll make the playoffs, but that's not the guy to take you to the championship, which is what they kept claiming. I want to say good morning to Linda before we lose track. Good morning, Linda. Great to have you with us as well.
How's it going?
As always, hope you're doing well. Planning for your move. I hope that's going well.
Sam Cassell, definitely.
Interesting.
Sam Cassell, I would like that hire. That would be, you're asking me right now, an assistant coach for 20 years in the league. He's never gotten a head coaching job, an NBA champion, been around, knows the game. Why hasn't Sam Cassell been given a shot?
I think that's a good call.
If you're asking me now, Keith, you give me the next, hour to hire someone for the Knicks, knowing their situation, who's available. Sam Cassell gets maybe the only interview with me.
If I've got to hire an assistant, I don't want Johnny Bryant, who I keep hearing about. I don't want Johnny Bryant.
So,
Sam Cassell, I would hire. I think right now, today.
yeah,
Let's get
yeah,
this over with.
that would be a popular hire. I think it would be a popular hire.
100%. And Danny predicts they won't see the Eastern Conference finals for the next 5 years. It's possible. And by the way, Leon Rose will be as responsible for that as Thibodeau not being here, because how about Leon Rose just sticks to a microphone just one time? We've seen him about 3 times in front of a microphone in all the years he's been here. And how about going and taking a little bit of the heat yourself here, Leon?
Yeah, let me throw out kudos to Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks. When Luka came back with the Lakers to play in Dallas, he went to the game. Even though he was standing in the runway, that had to be extremely unpleasant for him. But he stayed, he went. He didn't stay home. He didn't stay away, which reminds me of what Dick Young wrote, something very funny. When Bowie Kuhn wouldn't allow Hank Aaron to hit his record-breaking home run on the road.
Yep.
He forced Hank Aaron to play
To play 2 out of 3 games. Yeah.
They couldn't hold him out to play at home. And then when Hank Aaron came to play at home or wherever, I forgot the game. Bowie Kuhn wasn't there when he should have been. And Dick Young wrote, no, the commissioner had a very important Cleveland Indian game to attend. So I was cracking up about that.
Dick Young could cut right to the bone, couldn't he? He was really good. Real quick, Paul. Good morning, Paul. I didn't say good morning to you, by the way. Pacers will win the ship. I'm not sure the championship. Okay. Then he's got to go back to work. So anyway, I think we put a pin in that because this is just a mess, and it'll probably be it's good fodder for the newspapers. So I guess that's good. Let's talk about Aaron Judge for a little bit. And I know I want to talk a little bit about his season. It's a little early, but 400 we can talk about, Triple Crowns we can talk about. It's early. A lot of things can happen. Injuries can happen. And as we know with Judge, he may end up walking a bunch of times late in the season, depending on what happens behind him. Again, he's the best player in the game. Is there any doubt he's the best player in the game right now today? Any doubt at all?
Just doubt if Ohtani starts pitching and pitches really well. But even then, let me tell you something. Even if Ohtani pitches well, as long as he's a DH, he's not in the field.
100%.
I think of him as maybe a 1+ player, not a two-way, type player.
Great hitter.
Yeah, it would be like a football player who plays either offense or defense and plays on all the special teams, but doesn't play with the other units. But yesterday's game, I'll tell you, Keith, I was trying to tell you before the show, I really got ticked off at Aaron Boone. The whole logic of this, I tuned in the first inning to the Yankee game. Okay, and the number 2 hit is up Ben Rice, and I was expecting to see Aaron Judge hit number 2, and I'm saying, oh, Aaron Judge is hitting third. Okay, I'm okay with that if that's what they want to do, even though I prefer him hitting second. Then after Ben Rice is up, Paul Goldschmidt gets up at third, and I go, don't tell me they moved Aaron Judge to fourth. Don't tell me this nonsensical myth about hitting cleanup. They would actually move him to fourth, because it was always ludicrous talking about a cleanup hitter. The guy's hitting 4, and that's another argument. But then they say Aaron Judge is being given a rest day, and they see it, and the camera goes to Aaron Judge on the bench. He doesn't look happy. He looks anxious. The guy wants to play in the worst way. But Aaron Boone's telling him, you need your rest, Aaron. We're holding you out. Well, DH him then. DH him 3 games in a row if you want. If you want to pace the guy for over the whole season and for the playoffs, and you're thinking of the big picture, DH him. When he has the energy and he wants to play badly enough, there's absolutely no reason he shouldn't be DHing. How much energy is he expending coming up the bat? It's so stupid not to play him. Eventually he pinch hit one time. Give me a break. I mean, the Yankees win 1-0, and ultimately, I just don't get it.
I don't either. Flo and I are usually on the same page about a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to agree with you here. Yes, he has really underperformed, and you can capitalize that for sure in the playoffs, but I don't think nothing else matters. I mean, this guy goes out and wins a Triple Crown. That's an amazing feat. It doesn't happen that often. If he chases 400, that hasn't happened. Well, Brett chased it in 1980. Well, I guess Gwynn in the strike season, but I think he's a great story. He's a great player. Yes, he's underperformed in the playoffs. He needs to step it up. A lot of players have had that same situation. I don't think I'm not going to say he's not a great player. Are you not going to put him in the Hall of Fame someday because he didn't perform in the playoffs? Nobody's ever used that criteria.
Yeah, I think part of it, and this is going to contradict what I was saying a little while ago. It is a long season, and it wears on you really mentally after a while. And once the season ends, you go to the playoffs, you can hit a little wall, a slump during the playoffs, because mentally, you're a little drained, especially if you're Aaron Judge. He doesn't have to carry the team, but he's the guy everything revolves around. I mean, day after day. Listen, when Aaron Judge is on the road, he's the big ticket. He's the one player that fans know they're excited to go to the game because they could get to see Aaron Judge play. Imagine what they were thinking, fans in Kansas City yesterday. No Aaron Judge in the lineup. That's like buying a ticket to a Knicks game and seeing J.J. Redick is resting LeBron James for the game.
Let me ask you something about Judge's playoff performance. And do you think the perception would change? Because here's my problem with I think the problem with Aaron Judge, when he gets to the playoffs, he presses. He starts swinging at pitches he would never swing at. And guys aren't going to let him beat them. They're going to let they'll let Stanton beat him. Like Stanton had a great playoff, a great World Series. But they're going to pitch to him every time and not Judge. Judge was swinging at balls out of the zone. Hang on one second. Would the perception change if he just took the walks and didn't swing the bat? Because he hurt himself by swinging at bad pitches. Does it every year.
I'm not sure. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm not a stats guy on the spur of the moment to start looking it up. But I don't think Judge was that bad during the playoffs. I think he did get his share of walks. He did get on base his share times. I don't think he was bad. I just think he was nowhere near the Aaron Judge that we know. I mean, like if you look at Aaron over the course of a game, let's say Aaron Judge gets up 4 times in a playoff game. He goes 0 for 2 and gets 2 walks. We're going to think Judge failed again. But if it's a number 8 hitter, we'll go, hey, not bad. He got on base a couple of times. He drew walks, But we know what Aaron Judge can do. And, I mean, he hasn't played as well. And it's got to be on his mind to an extent. Even though I'm not saying it's bothering him at all right now. But as the playoffs get near, if the Yankees make the playoffs in the way they're playing now, by all indications are that they will, it's going to be the big focus going into the playoffs, how Aaron Judge is going to perform. And listen, we had the same thing with A-Rod, didn't we? And A-Rod finally broke through in 2009, had a good run.
Hopefully he'll get enough chances and break through eventually. And I think to Flo's point, you're right. He's not saying he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He's just saying it would make him legendary. Again, the problem is we compare all these guys to, Roos World Series performances and more recently Reggie, right? Everybody's compared to that where they step up their game. We all know what Steinbrenner said about Winfield being Mr. May, right? Because he went 1 for 22 in his one World Series with the Yankees. But
it happens, Keith, you get blips. When Roger Clemens with the Yankees had that great Cy Young year, he went something like 20-2. I forgot his exact record. I'm close.
21-4, maybe something like that. Yeah.
First game of the playoffs, I think against Oakland, he was awful, and he got taken out. Lost. Yankees lose the game, and then you think that great season, and maybe it was one and done. So what's it all for? Kershaw, I was thinking about before I didn't mention his name.
Great example.
Kershaw has been not good during the playoffs. Very disappointing. There was one year he pitches a good game now and then in the playoffs of the series, but all in all, he hasn't been the same pitcher.
Agreed 100%. And here's the other thing. I'll say this one more time with Judge. He's going to have trouble producing the same way in the playoffs because teams are not going to let him beat them. They're always going to let somebody else beat him.
I understand that, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Keith. But I think if anything, it would be a case maybe Judge would be pressing a little too much.
Well, there's that too. You put them together.
The first time he gets up in the playoffs, that's all people are going to focus on. Oh, how, it's Judge going to break out, this and that, and it's got to be on his mind.
Yeah,
he's going to get the occasional big hit.
Yeah.
But people are going to look at the big picture. If he hits 2 home runs during a series and bats 171 and the Yankees lose, people are going to say that about Judge.
If they win the World Series, we don't talk about it as much anyway. So, right?
Right. And if I'm Judge, you got to relax because you have to think if you're with the Yankees, you're hopefully going to get your chance year after year. But it's going to be a big storyline when the playoffs come this year.
Winning a World Series is important, as Danny says too. So
no, Danny's wrong on that.
Well, you need to
wait.
You need the ultimate list. You got to win a World Series to be on the ultimate list.
Well, it's a team game. If Bonds, let's eliminate the steroid issue with Bonds for a second, okay? If we're going to eliminate that, I could tell you that Bonds is the greatest player of all time. We could argue that. If you eliminate the steroid things, what he did was, worldly.
We can't eliminate it though. He was
crazy.
But before steroids, he was a great player.
He never won a World Series. Listen, so let me tell you this: Mickey Mantle won 7 World Series?
Yep.
Okay. Mays and Aaron won 1 apiece. So can I say Mantle is greater than Aaron and Mays based on that? Mike Trout, you're not going to tell me Mike Trout and Ken Griffey Jr. are an all-time great players. They never won a World Series.
But I think that Danny's point is they weren't playing on teams that have won 27 World Championships either and had guys that won a bunch. I think that's why he will get knocked down a notch. To me, it's not going to diminish him in my mind, but with a lot of people, it will. For sure, unfortunately.
No, baseball is different. I'm going to go a step. You even look at other sports.
A lot of great players, Jack. Ernie Banks never won a World Series, right? Great players have never won a World Series, but they were on teams that weren't winning consistently like the Yankees were.
Keith, we could talk about I understand perception.
It's a great debate question.
We were talking early in the show about if a player's going to spend his whole career at a team. Imagine LeBron James said, I'm going to be a Cleveland Cavalier for my whole career. I'm never leaving and going elsewhere. He never left and went elsewhere. I seriously question whether he even have 1 championship now because they would have been too good to draft Kyrie Irving. So they probably don't win 1 at Cleveland. He doesn't wind up in Miami with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, etc. He might not even have a championship. And then wherever we put him on the all-time list, people would say, oh, he's not as good as Magic who won 5. He's not as good as Bird who won 3.
That's a great point, Flo, kind of what Jack was just talking about. Great debate question for you right there, Jack, at some point. So unfortunately, we're out of time though, Jack. A lot of fun. The time goes by so fast. Yeah. We got sidetracked a little bit here and there, but that's what's fun about you go down a road you didn't expect to go. So a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for joining us. Happy to fill in for Sonia today. Jack, you got anything to say about the debate show tomorrow? Or
no, the debate show. Tune in 8:00 Eastern time. We have a lot of fun. Myself, Sonia, James Martin, discussing various topics.
Excellent. And tune in tomorrow, guys, for that. I'll be on the Stream of Consciousness on Sunday morning, and MLB update at 3:00 this afternoon. So catch us. Guys, have a great weekend. For Jack Hirsch, have a great time. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.